Okay, yesterday's video, I talked about why I feel that regretful parents should speak up and attempt to warn other younger people from making the same mistakes as they did and suffering the same consequences as they have had to suffer and continue to suffer as a result of these actions that they made when they were rather young and short-sighted and were severely lacking in reverence for the potential for consequences that were very likely to befall them and did. And yeah, I mean, what better source is there? Who are they going to take that most seriously from, right? It's obvious that coming from them, it's going to mean so much more. And I was thinking more as to why those Twitter comments of parents expressing their regret had such an effect on me, to where it was like shit, maybe this human species thing isn't, maybe there's hope after all. I thought a bit more about why that was, because I read the comments back yesterday, and I definitely overhyped them. I made it sound like in that video that they were like, really putting in all this effort to attempt to like warn other people from making the same mistakes as they did. But reading them back, it wasn't, it was very, it was more casual. It wasn't like they were like, listen, take it from me, don't fucking, they were mainly just, joking around. The reason, I think, because there were a couple that were quite serious in terms of their goal, like, hey, don't fuck up the way that I fucked up. But overall, it was, again, more casual. The reason why it did have that effect on me is the fact that that is just a far more pure form of altruism than, some lucky asshole like me who's like, I dodged the bullet. I almost got hit by that bullet, but I didn't. And I'm fucking glad I did. My life is far better now than it otherwise would have been if I would have been hit by that bullet of, having an accidental child with a woman that I barely knew. That would have fucking ruined my life. And I'm glad that it didn't. Look at me. I dodged the bullet. It's not going to be, they're not going to take it as seriously. And it doesn't mean as much. It doesn't mean anywhere near as much when directly compared to someone who got hit by the fucking bullet head on and is continuing to suffer severely for something that they did, again, when they were young and just didn't have sufficient reverence for the consequences because they felt so distant from them and so far removed from them. That's just far more of an act of altruism. It's so much more genuine. It's so much more real. People who are suffering those consequences severely and attempting to instill that wisdom that they, all these lessons that they've learned, and now they can't go back in time. They can't fix what they already fucked up. And the best they can do is attempt to prevent other people from fucking up in the way that they did. And many people don't do that. And there are many reasons as to why that is, but I think a big one is it's just far more difficult to, again, own up to their very severe mistake that they are paying dearly for. But also, it's just, we are very competitive in our nature. It's very deeply ingrained in our nature to be incredibly competitive. And if people are doing better than we are, we feel as though we are doing worse by default. And so people who are in a state of suffering are going to be more likely to, the phrase misery loves company heavily applies here, I think. It's just, they're not going to have that incentive to attempt to save people from destroying themselves and destroying other lives, because why the fuck should they get to dodge that bullet? I had to fucking suffer the consequences, so fuck them. So for someone to be in that state of suffering, again, as a result of consequences that they're paying very severely for actions that took place when they were a different human being, and really, really trying to convey, listen, this is not worth it. Take it from me. I am suffering severely as a result of these actions. It's just far more genuine. It's far more real. It's then, again, some asshole like me is like, oh, look at me. I dodged the bullet. Take it from me. I'm happy as can be. It doesn't mean anywhere near as much. It's just very surface level and superficial in comparison to someone who is there and really, really wants to prevent others from suffering that same fate. It's just far more genuine. And I think that's why it was just, that's why I hyped the comments up, I think, because it's just, that did take me, just, I don't know. The fact that in spite of them being in that place of suffering, they still have this desire to prevent others from ending up in that predicament as well. And this is the value of good parents, right? Because many of your peers, many people don't have good friends. It's just, they're not going to have your best interests at heart in the same way that a parent will, because parents are very highly, just from a selfish perspective, they're very highly invested in you, and you're an extension of themselves. So they have far more, again, an incentive to ensure that you live a life worth living, whereas peers, good friends are hard to come by. People who genuinely have your interests at heart are very hard to come by. And many people don't have good parents. Many people don't have people, again, in their lives that can pass on valuable wisdom that will make it more likely that they do go and live a life worth living. Many people, all they have is what couldn't even really be safely called friends, because they're not. You when you grow up in that environment where no one really even has your well-being in mind, even their own well-being in mind, you're going to be far more likely to shoot yourself in the foot and have a child with someone that you don't value, and just your behavior is going to reflect oftentimes the people that are in your life and have been there for you. And many people, it's just, you don't choose your fucking parents. That's a hand you're dealt. And many people get dealt a shitty fucking hand. And for the people who are dealt a shitty fucking hand to be able to have that drive to help others is, again, just far more real. Far more real. Far closer to being a genuine, pure, refined sort of altruism in comparison to hope that wasn't too unorganized. We're at almost 10 minutes. That's fine. More rambling. If you don't like these sort of unorganized rambling videos, please let me know. Let me know how coherent I was in that video. And